Resume. Okay. So personal cognition, mental models, they are personal, they are individual, they are subjective and multimodal. They are individual, personal and subjective because they involve our opinions and emotions. Fine. At the same time, they are multimodal. Now if we look at the model, the models are multiple model means there are sounds, like primarily we are listening to speech sounds, okay, when we are updating or constructing our mental models through discourse. Fine. So we are listening, we are listening to speech sounds, we are perceiving certain visions, or the like, again that example, a visit to Nathia Gali, fine, or Namal, these visions are stored in our mind, these mental models, these experiences are stored in our mind in the form of visions. Fine. Like visual pictures and visual videos as well, movable pictures and static pictures, which you call schema and schemata. Fine. Schema and script. Then we have gestures, motor movements. For example, if you think about normal, so what comes to your mind is, people roaming around in the lawn, teachers going into the classes, into the staff room in offices. Fine. The cars, drivers parking their cars, are going out of the campus. So all these are the motor movements. Fine. So that is why it is said that the personal cognition, the mental model, they are individual, personal, and subjective, and at the same time, they are multimodal in nature. Fine, like they do not consist of speech sounds only, or visions only, or motor movement only. Rather, all these things are combinedly stored there. That is why they are multimodal in nature. So this is our personal cognition, our mental model. Fine. Then we have got the social cognition, which consists of the social knowledge, the social attitudes, and the social ideologies. Fine. So, if you look at individuals, we all are individuals. Fine. So, we are social actors. And as members of groups, communities, organizations, or institutions, we are social actors. Now, if we look at all the people we have got here in this class, students of BE 7th and MA 4th, fine, they are all the members of NUMAL, the NUMAL community, fine, the NUMAL organization, the NUMAL institution, fine. We all belong to the same religious institution, the same political institution, fine, the same economic institution, economic organization, fine. So the same educational institution. That is why it is said that individuals, they are social actors, like they perform social actions in society, fine. And they are not individuals only, like they do not have got personal cognition only, rather they have got social cognition as well. Social cognition. Wait a minute, please. Fine. Okay. So, yes, we all are social actors. Fine. Then the social actors, they share, like all we belong to, the same social group, the same communities, same organization or institution. So we share certain things. Here is the list of the things which we share. The first one is knowledge of language and discourse. We all share the knowledge of language and discourse. For example, all the speakers of the Pashto language, they share the same knowledge. Fine. The syntactic knowledge, particularly you have already studied syntax. Fine, I think you studied it in your previous semester. Yes. So the syntactic knowledge, the phonological knowledge, the various speech sounds, fine, the various meanings of words, fine, even the pragmatic knowledge and discourse knowledge of language. Okay, these are actually the the pieces of knowledge which we share. Fine. Shared by all the members of a community. Fine. Then we have the socio-cultural knowledge of the world. We all share the socio-cultural knowledge of the world. Fine. Like I'm the social actor living in this society. I'm like, we all belong to the same society. Fine. So we are the members of the same group, the same community. I have socio-cultural knowledge of the world. I know about the Pakistani politics. You also know. Fine. I know about normal. You also do. I know about Nathia Gali tape. You also do. Fine. I know about discourse analysis. You also do. Fine. So we share the socio-cultural knowledge. I know about my religion, Islam, and you also do. Fine. So this is how the socio-cultural knowledge of the world that is also shared by all the social actors, all the members of a community. Fine. Then we share the same attitudes, we share the same ideologies, we share the same norms and the same values. Fine. कभी आपने देखे कि स्टूडेंट ने क्लास में टीचर के सामने दूसरे स्टूडेंट को थप्पड़ मार रहा हो? Not, no, why? Because we share the same norms, we share the same values. Fine. At the same time, we share the same attitudes and the same ideologies. Fine. Our religious ideology or political ideologies, cultural ideologies. Fine. So many ideologies are there. Now all these things, our social attitudes, ideologies, norms, values, find the thing, the socio-cultural knowledge of the world, all the knowledge of the language and discourse, all these things are stored in our social cognition, not in our personal cognition. Fine. Forms of social cognition are located in semantic memory, which is better to be called social memory. Fine. So coming back to that diagram, the types of memory: episodic memory, the personal experiences, okay, subjective experiences, each and everything which we have got in the personal cognition, they are stored in the in the episodic memory. On the other hand, our social cognition, the forms and the knowledge, the ideologies, beliefs, fine, the sociocultural knowledge, all these pieces of knowledge are stored in the semantic memory, which is also known as the social memory. Fine. Now if you look at this social cognition, like our knowledge, attitudes, and ideologies, they also function in the understanding of discourse and in the construction of personal mental models. Fine. You are understanding discourse. I'm producing discourse right now. You are consuming the discourse. I'm doing discourse production. You're doing discourse consumption. Fine. So you are getting me, you are interpreting me, you are getting my like you are making sense of my language because of your social cognition. Fine. When we talk about Natia Gali or Namal, for example, and if I talk about Islam, if I talk about gender inequality, if I talk about Imran Khan, if I talk about the international power relations, international political relations, fine. So all these things are shared by all of us. Fine. The socio-cultural knowledge, the knowledge of language, the meanings of words, fine, and the attitudes and social values, norms and values, all these things are shared by all of us equally. That is why you are making sense of the discourse I'm producing right now. Fine. So this is a function of social cognition in the understanding of discourse. At the same time, the social cognition helps us in constructing the personal mental models. Fine. You're constructing the personal mental models now. Let's suppose if you go somewhere, okay, you construct your personal mental model based on your uh, you know based on your social cognition. Because if you do not have a social cognition, if you do not have sociocultural knowledge of the world, fine, and if you do not have knowledge of the language, sheer knowledge of the language, you cannot interpret anything. Fine. And if you cannot interpret anything, how come that you will construct or you will update your personal or mental models? Fine. So first of all, you understand things with the help of your social cognition. Fine. And then you interpret you construct and update your mental models, your personal mental models, with the help of this social cognition. Clear? It is the role of, just as we discussed, the role of personal cognition, in the production and consumption of discourse. At the same time, social cognition also plays a role in the production and consumption of discourse, and comprehension and production of discourse. Like you are understanding me right now. Why? Because you have got the social cognition, okay, the sheer knowledge. At the same time, I'm making production according to your needs, fine. I'm making language production at the moment according to your level of understanding, fine. How can I do this? Because we have got this the same knowledge of the language, we have got the same socio-cultural knowledge. I'm following certain norms and values. I'm making the use of up, fine. I'm not making the use of tutum, fine. Why? Because we all have got the shared social knowledge. That is why the shared social knowledge, it helps in the production of discourse as well, fine. Then moving to the multimodality of the social cognition. Just like the personal cognition, the personal mental cognition, the social cognition is also multimodal in nature, because it has got visions, sounds, smell, sensorometer information, like information related to the various senses, fine, and related to the motor ideal, motor concepts in our minds, like the like we all have the, for example, the social cognition, the social knowledge, fine, of running. That is, a motor knowledge is there, like in the form of a video. So social cognition is also multimodal in nature, because it involves visions, sounds, smell, and sensorometer information, just like the cognitive model, the person mental model. Then if we look at the social model, it may also act and communicate, sorry, social actors may also act and communicate as members of social movements. Now I'm coming to ideology, I'm coming to discourse, fine. I'm coming to inequalities, all the things which we have been discussing since the very first day of this semester, fine. So if you look at social individuals, social actors, like all of us members of society, they may also act as members of social movements or social ideological groups, fine. They may also act as well as communicate, fine, as members of social movements, ideological groups, and they share same attitudes about fundamental social issues, fine, such as immigration, gender inequalities, racism, colonialism, imperialism, abortion, poverty, terrorism, and many more, fine. Let's suppose all of us are feminists, for example. This is just an example, not all are feminists, fine. If we are acting and communicating as members of the social movement and social ideology, which is known as feminism, fine. So we will be sharing certain social attitude, fine, and our attitude will be about the social problem, social issue, that is gender inequality, fine. For example, if we belong to uh, another moment, that is racism or anti-racism, fine. So here we'll be acting and we'll be communicating as a member of as members of this movement and this ideological group, anti-racism, for example, fine. So again we will be sharing certain attitudes towards racism, fine, towards racial inequalities, fine. If we belong to for example, if we belong to Marxism or socialism or communism, fine, that is a social movement, and we act as ideological group. So if we belong to this group, the socialism or communism or Marxism, fine, and we act and communicate as members of this movement and this ideological group, again we'll be sharing certain attitudes towards this particular social problem. What sort of social problem? Poverty, fine. So this is how social actors, they may belong to a particular social movement, a particular ideological group, and while living in or while participating in an ideological group or in a movement, fine, we have to act and we have to communicate in that group, fine, in that ideological group and in that movement. So when we are acting and communicating collectively, fine, we share certain collective attitudes, and those attitudes are related to certain social issues, certain social problems. And every movement, every ideological group have got has got, you know, its own social, its own attitude towards a particular social problem. Clear? uh, Getting further close to uh, CDA, fine, and inequalities, social attitudes, our social ideologies, such as socialism, feminism, neoliberalism, racism, anti-racism, militarism, pessimism, socialism, capitalism, colonialism, anti-colonialism. I think all the terms are familiar to you, except this one. Pessimism is actually, you may say, it is again militarism. Fine, like those people who work for peace, who are against wars. Fine, that movement, social movement, is called pessimism. Fine. So if you look at our social attitudes, social ideologies, these kind of social ideologies. Fine. Now, based on these social ideologies, we polarize people. Fine. Our attitude, based on our social attitudes, we polarize people. We polarize people between us and them. Fine. We draw a line on, we draw a line here, a binary. On this side we have got the us. Fine. Us means our in group members. In group members. Fine. And group members means the members which are the part of our group. Fine. So they are called the in group members. On the other hand, we have got the them. Fine, which are, I have already written here, in group and out group. Fine. On this side of the line, this is the line, for example, the binary. So on this side we have got the in group members, and on that side we have got the outgroup members, which we refer to them as them. Fine. Now look at this. I said on this group. This group means on this side, which belong to us. Fine. And that group, that means which belongs to the other group. Fine. So let's suppose if we belong to socialism, for example. So all the socialists, all the members, all the members of this community, this moment, fine, we consider them as in group members because they are the people who we belong to. Fine. Like we ask certain questions, who we are, who we are not. Fine. Question number one, in order to decide our in group and out group, fine, we ask certain questions from ourselves. Fine. Question one, who we are and who we are not. Who we are, who we are not. For example, if I say racism and anti-racism, so I am an anti-racist and I am not an anti-racist. Who we are, who we are not. Fine. So I am an anti-racist and I am not a racist. Fine. So if I say I'm an anti-racist, so I belong to all the people who are anti-racist. They are my in-group members. I am not a racist. Now all the people who are racist, they are my out-group members because they are the people who I do not belong to. Fine. Then what I do and what I don't. What I do not practice anything based on racism. Fine. So what I do anti-racist actions. So all the people who perform anti-racist actions, they are my in-group members. All the people who perform racist actions, fine, they are my out-group members. In the same way, the not, fine, like what I do, what I don't. Now I don't do The racial I don't do the racial actions. I do not perform actions based on racism. So if I do not perform them, it means the people who perform those actions, they are not my in-group members, they are my out-group members. Fine. What do I practice? Again, what do I do and what do I don't practice? Another question can be, question 3 can be, what do I believe and what do I don't believe? So what do I believe? I believe that all the people are equal. Okay, there is no concept of racial inequality and racial discrimination. Fine. So what do I believe? That all the people are equal. Now all the people who have got the same belief, the same opinion, they are my in-group members. On the other hand, those people, okay, what do I don't believe? What do I don't believe? I don't believe the racially biased ideas. Now, those people who believe in such ideas, they are my outgroup members because they are the people who I do not belong to. Okay, so coming back to the point, we belong to certain social groups, social movements in our society, and we act and communicate as members of those social groups and ideological groups. Fine. When we belong to a group, we share a particular attitude, and that attitude is related to a particular social action, a particular social issue. And here are some of the issues. Fine. So when we belong to a particular group and we share a particular social attitude with all the members of that social group, with all the members of that social movement, fine, we polarize all the people based on that social attitude. Fine. Like, we consider some people as our in-group members, the people who we belong to, and we consider some people as our out-group members, the people who we don't belong to. The word polarization, if it is not familiar to some of the students, polarization means to polarize the people, to draw a line, to divide the people into two groups. Find two equal groups, polarization. So we polarize group based on our attitudes, social attitudes, and our social attitudes are based on the social movement, the social ideological group which we belong to as the members of society. Fine. This is all about the social cognition. Clear? So to summarize the discussion so far, we have got memory. Fine. First of all, the relationship between text and social structures, society, that relation is mediated by, constructed, and controlled by the cognitive structures, our mind, our memory. Fine. Our cognition simply. Then memory means our opinions, our ideologies, representations, concepts. Fine. Then we have mind and memory and discourse producing. Fine. So all we have got cognitive processes like thinking, perceiving, knowing, understanding, interpreting, language use, interaction, hoping, feeling, planning. All these are social processes. Now these social processes form, these social processes change, they store, they activate, they deactivate our cognitive structures, means our mental representations. Fine. Mental representations are our thoughts, our knowledge, our beliefs, interpretations, our plans, attitudes, our ideologies. Fine, each and everything. So we perform cognitive processes, and with the help of cognitive processes, we change, we store, we activate and deactivate, and we construct our thoughts, our knowledge, beliefs, and plans, attitudes, and ideologies. Fine. Then we have got the cognitive processes and representations. So these cognitive processes and representations, they cause and they control, they direct our social actions and our interaction. Fine. We have got two types of memory: short-term memory and long-term memory. Okay. Then long-term memory is further divided into episodic memory, which is a personal memory, and semantic memory, which is a social memory. Find the shared memory. Okay. We have got two types of cognitive processes, two types of cognition: the personal and the social. So the personal cognition, which is a subjective representation of the world. Fine. And Then we have the social cognition, which is, the knowledge of the world, but the shared knowledge of the world. And the shared knowledge of the world means shared knowledge of language, fine, shared knowledge of the socio-cultural knowledge of the world, and shared knowledge of ideologies, attitudes, norms, and values present in our mind, fine. So this is what we discussed so far. Then we have got description and analysis of discourse. So these, cognitive, these mental models, the personal mental models, and the social cognition, all these things help us in the production and consumption of this production and interpretation of discourse. Okay, like if you look at the stress, pitch, and intonation structures, fine, or word order of sentences. So whether the information is new, old, or unexpected. Okay, we already share knowledge with one another. Okay, there is some shared knowledge, socially shared knowledge. So our stress patterns, find our intonation, our word order, find of sentences. These things let through these things we let one another know that whether the information I'm sharing with you that is new, old, or unexpected. Fine. Let's suppose if the information is unexpected, I'll raise my intonation, fine, my volume, intonation, fine, the loudness, intensity in my voice, even the pitch, that will be different, fine. I saw a tiger yesterday, fine, like the information, this is new for you. When there is an old information, so I'll say it very normally, fine. When there is something unexpected, surprising, so the way we give surprise to someone, that our uh, phonological structures, they are quite different, then fine. Then if you look at our the emotion words, intonation and volume, so they express our personal emotions, fine, our emotion words. Okay, like interjections, ouch, fine, hurrah, fine, these words. Apart from this, intonation and volume is, I give you the example of watching a tiger in the street, fine. So personal experiences, personal emotions. When we get happy, our intonation patterns, our volume, our the intensity, loudness of our speech, each and everything changes. Didactic expressions, speech acts, politeness. Didactic expression means we have got special didactic expressions. We have got temporal and we have got personal, like the pronouns, fine. Then this and that, now, here, um, now, later, fine, here, there. All these are the various, like the words which we, expressions with which we point to things and places and time, fine. Speech acts and politeness. Uh, all these things belong to the context model and common ground. Find context model. These are again discussed by Van Dijk in the personal model, personal mental models. I'll share the document with you, the research paper written by Van Dijk. Fine. The context model, you may read these things there. So we, speech acts, politeness strategies, all these things are made use of in conversation based on the common ground, because we already know the rules and regulations of conversation. The politeness strategies, fine, how to threaten someone's positive face, how to save someone's positive face, how to threaten someone's positive face, how to threaten someone's negative face, fine. The speech acts, when to use direct speech act, when to use indirect speech acts. Again, those examples, it's very hot inside, fine. So it is an indirect request to open the door, fine. So all these things are based on common ground. We already have the shared knowledge, shared information in our mind. Okay. Then if we look at evidences, I saw, I heard, he said, fine. These, with these things, we share our knowledge and we share our experiences. Again, experiences and knowledge, they are the part of our memory, fine. If we look at metaphors, like uh, he is as brave as a lion, fine, or she is as beautiful as a moon, fine. So these metaphors, they are based on the multimodal structures of the mental models and experience, fine. If you look at our mental models, as I told you, they are multimodal in nature, fine, because they are not based on words only, not on sounds only, rather they are based on visions, they are based on the sensor motor actions, fine, like motor actions are involved there, fine. I can feel कि मैंने speed बहुत बढ़ा दिया है, but we are getting short of time. We have left only, we are left with 3 minutes only in this session. Okay. Meanings. How do we construct meanings? Like I'm speaking to you right now and you are making sense of my language. Fine. This is based on the sociocultural knowledge. Fine. The knowledge of language which is shared by all of us. Okay, all the members of society. So these personal and social mental models, they help us and all these things in the production and consumption of discourse. What to say, when to say, how to say it. Fine. All these things are you know helped by our personal and social cognition. Clear?
Very
Yes,
much
sir.
clear, sir.
Thank you, sir.
If
Yes,
you
sir.
have any question, you may ask.
Yes, sir, it's clear, sir.
Okay.
No question, sir.
Okay. In the coming class, inshallah, we'll talk about the model of critically analyzing a critical discourse proposed by Dijk, the concept of us and them. Like when we are analyzing a discourse, fine, how we come to know about the concept of us and them, how can we explore power relations in the text, fine. So he has proposed a model which consists of several indicators, for example, irony, exaggeration, presupposition, fine, victimization, like people present themselves as victims. Look at Imran Khan when he delivers a speech nowadays, so he
Speech on
presents
Kashmir.
himself as a victim of coronavirus. Fine. Other people,
So,
similarly we present ourselves as victims of Islamophobia. Fine. So victimization is there. How do we describe the actors in our speech? Fine. All these are the things which are discussed by Dijk in his model, which we'll discuss in the coming class, inshallah. Fine. I'm sharing the
inshallah.
Yes, sir.
document of this file along with the lecture on normal LMS. You may download the things from there. Read this document, read this file. Fine. I have highlighted all these features which we just discussed. Fine. Read that research paper, and if you have any question in your mind, you may ask in the coming session. I mean tomorrow. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much. Stay home and stay safe. Allah Hafiz.
Love it, sir.